Hello everyone, and thank you for watching my presentation on the Afghan women's crisis. My name is Sophie Carazales. I am a junior at Miami University, and I am working through the English Studies program. Since starting this course, I have been introduced to so many different lessons that have given me phenomenal opportunities to educate myself on topics, cultures, religions, and world issues that I may not have otherwise had the chance or resources to. For this presentation, it was important for me not only to educate myself on something that is important to me and to the people suffering from it, but I also wanted to educate those who are not aware of the crimes that are being committed in the Middle East and to the women who live there. That being said, I had the privilege to research the ongoing women's crisis present in Afghanistan, headed by the terrorist organization known as the Taliban. Given the fact that this is ongoing, like I said, there are new developments and laws passed every single day that demean Afghan women and strip their rights away. However, this presentation will be a short history of the Taliban's suffocating rule over women and an overview of the crisis up to the present day. The goal of this presentation is to make the general public aware of the crimes against humanity that are being committed in Afghanistan, and it offers some hopeful steps forward toward a more cohesive and inclusive future. So, we will be talking about the history of how this began, the issues surrounding the women's crisis and the laws passed to harm them, how the world has received this matter, and what nonprofit organizations and normal people like you and me are doing every day to help. To begin, the Taliban's rule over Afghanistan took place more than 3 years ago, turning their once more equal country into something straight out of a horror novel. The Taliban came into power over this country upon the collapse of the previous government, causing the United States and NATO to cease their involvement with Afghanistan in 2021. Thus, the terrorists declared a new government, and Western donors cut off all supplies and aid to the country, thrusting Afghanistan into poverty and an economic crisis. This is another way to hold their citizens down, as they have no way of getting out of their situation or leaving the country. Shortly after the Taliban took over, they began passing gender-based laws and closing public spaces to women. The Taliban also outlawed political parties themselves, creating a one-party state. Those who disagree will be arrested and tortured. This glaring violation of free speech, petition, and press just shows how far the Taliban will go to force their people into submission, as we will see in more of the upcoming slides. The number of people in poverty nearly doubled just 1 year after the Taliban took over, with many of them being children. Since Afghanistan's healthcare system requires outside help from other governments, it has been largely underfunded since many of them stopped supporting the country. However, it is important to note that no other world government recognizes the Taliban's government as being official. When people hear the words women's crisis or women's rights, many in this day and age immediately think of The Handmaid's Tale, and they would be right. After all, Afghanistan seemed to change overnight. Women in Afghanistan used to practice law, politics, journalism, education, and sport. However, if you look at Afghanistan now, you won't even find a woman walking outside, simply because it is not allowed. Razia, a women's human rights defender from Afghanistan, stated that the women who have lost their agency, jobs, and economic status are told that they deserve it, and that the Taliban return is a positive step to shut down those who are preaching adultery in the name of human rights and women's rights. Women in Afghanistan have since been stripped of walking outside, speaking in front of other women, and they have even been forbidden from seeing doctors unless they are female. The issue with this is that women are not allowed to practice medicine. However, education is not the only right that is taken from women. Let's look at some others. First, we must understand what vice and virtue laws are. Simply put, these are laws intended to prevent vice and promote virtue, and they come with their own set of agents called morality police to make sure that they are enforced. So far, the Taliban has put in dozens of gender laws to prevent vice, including banning women from being heard speaking or singing even within their own home, banning unrelated women and men from looking at each other, banning women from looking at pictures of men or of living male relatives, as well as completely segregating men and women in public. What are some of the consequences for disobeying these? To name a few, citizens can face arrest, forced disappearance, public flogging, and there has even been a recorded case of public execution as well. It is important to take note of the fact that women are not the only ones affected from these laws. but men and the media are as well, just not in the same way. Men must keep their beard over 3 inches in length, wear loose-fitting clothing, not reveal their bodies above the knees, and sodomy has also been banned even with one's own wife. The media has also been restricted from mocking or criticizing Islam. Taxi drivers cannot transport women, and Muslims cannot help other Muslims. The Ministry of Women's Affairs has also been entirely dismantled. Now, how is the world reacting to this? Many human rights activists have scathing opinions on the matter, with one campaigner for the non-governmental organization Amnesty International stating that 3 years on, the absolute absence of any concrete measures in addressing the human rights catastrophe in Afghanistan is a source of shame for the world. This quote calls out to other more powerful world leaders to do something about this crisis. However, their efforts have often fallen on deaf ears. Given the fact that there are so many wars going on in the world right now, notably the war in Ukraine being a major one, many other world issues have overshadowed the one in Afghanistan, and it does not help that most of the Western donors aiding them have ceased all contact. Heather Barr of the Human Rights Watch has also criticized the world leaders, even going as far as to say that no country has achieved gender equality, and that when diplomats engage, the focus is often on counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, business deals, or hostage returns. Despite Afghan women signaling and appealing otherwise, their rights protection agenda rarely makes it onto the priority list of diplomats. This makes sense when you take into account that only 28 leaders a part of the UN are women. We are simply underrepresented and therefore do not have a strong enough voice to stand out against other major world issues. Actress Meryl Streep attended a United Nations event in which she stated that a squirrel has more rights than a girl in Afghanistan today because the public parks have been closed to women and girls by the Taliban. A bird may sing in Kabul, but a girl may not in public. This is extraordinary. This is a suppression of the natural law. However, the Taliban's spokesperson quickly denied these claims, stating that we highly respect them in their role as mother, sister, wife. They are an essential part of the family and society. However, this only goes to show how little they value women as people, independent of what their bodies can do and the relationships that they can have with men. Many people and non-governmental organizations, however, have stepped up and are taking matters into their own hands, with protests around the world drawing attention to women's rights violations everywhere. There have also been companies started with the goal of providing aid to Afghanistan where it is needed most. Women for Women International allows you to make one-time payments in any amount that go directly to Afghan women. Afghan Aid has been working with families for more than 40 years, giving them food, usable plumbing, and natural disaster relief. Afghan Aid, with a majority Afghan team, is one of the most impactful companies, with them helping over 490,000 people in just 2023. With medical treatment, and 400,000 women were helped with the integration process back into society, as you can see here. Despite these companies doing great work, sometimes it seems that we as citizens can only simply educate ourselves and read up on what is going on in the world. Online magazines and news sites such as Amnesty International, the Human Rights Watch, International Crisis Group, UN Women, and the Obama Foundation post articles, readings about the current political and world affairs, serving to help teach us about history, both dark and hopeful, that is being made before our eyes. What I want viewers to walk away from this presentation with is a clear understanding of history, how the crisis began, the horrors that are being committed, and of course, what we are doing to prevent it. It is important to know where we have been as a world and what decisions have led to human rights violations across history. This is one of those times where it is crucial that we study closely so that this does not happen again in the future. What we can do right now is simply read, donate, and take each day as a step toward a more bright and inclusive future. Thank you. Here are my works cited. Thank you for watching again.